Akira.
Have you any hobbies?
My hobbies are fast cars and fast women.
Hobbies are healthy. They teach you things.
Oh boy, here we go. We are back once more, ladies and gentlemen. It is Monday at 6 p.m., and that means one thing to all of us here in this panel. It is Around the USFL. Zach Kyleman sitting in on the hosting chair as we have once again, and going to be going around the horn. We got a schedule to talk about this week, and we got an excellent special guest coming up that, well, we may have already spoiled, and I know Luke Miller, at the very least, is very thrilled to have this gentleman on once we get to that point. And welcome all of you in the chat online, by the way, for joining us in this. Luke, I didn't mean to step on your toes there. Just want to get everybody associated with the show and get everybody locked and loaded in. As we do, though, it's time to get around the horn. It's been a busy Monday. Let's catch up with everybody else. It's been a busy week, I would say. Let's catch up. And I always do it clockwise, so look who's first. It is Ducky who's first this week. Back on camera. Not just a blank screen being thrown up by Shock this time around. Dude, how's it going?
Good.
I see you have we'll have some discussion in a minute, but I know the championship game talk has been interesting for a Monday afternoon, has it?
Yeah, definitely has. I got some opinions on it. We'll talk about it.
We'll get into that. Good to have you on here this week. And of course, at the very end, it is my pal from the UFL podcast. We're going to be talking about a potential show at the end of the week. Stay tuned to that. It is the ref himself. How's it going, my guy? Is the stash holding up just as well as it was last week?
I'm loving the stash, actually. And you know what? My brand new hat is going to be here over the next few days. So next week, you're going to see a whole new transformation when it comes to stash ref over here. And like you kind of teed up, we got spring stock news because we have the UFL schedule. We're going to dive into that, but I'll end off. I mean, could it get any better? It's a good week. It's a great week. It might be the best week ever because I now officially have my seats at Rice Stadium for this upcoming 12-0 Houston Roughnecks schedule. Rough 'em up. Let's go.
Extra points goes to the official account, by the way, retweeting.
Oh, yeah.
Online.
That too. Sign you guys up. We love our social teams at PFN.
Lore. The ref lore grows by the day, and thanks to the official accounts for giving us a little bit more lore online and on PFN Discord. By the way, link in our descriptions below. Going around, Mel's is on. Mel's, how are things doing? How are you doing? Thoughts on the Panthers schedule, since you were the first Panthers person, not myself, as a fan that gets to look at this whole thing.
I mean, I'll be honest, I haven't looked at it super in depth. I only have two main thoughts. Is I'm kind of sad that we're playing on Saturday for our opening game because it kind of messes with my schedule a bit. But also the draft weekend, I was a little sad to see that we're not playing a home draft weekend. But I'm sure we're going to get into all that later, so I'll say that.
Yeah. And thank you for that, because, look, there's a lot of talk on us with the draft. You know, it's in Detroit, so there's a lot of guys that are in the Midwest on our team that are definitely looking to be up there. So definitely something to look into, of course. James, how are you doing? How's the phone? Are you getting lit up as always? You are the Adam Schefter of this network, so you keeping yourself sane, or you getting you have 3 phones at this point? I mean, you got to have multiple devices to
still
keep
have
up.
one. But yeah, no, it's always something going on. It's been quite busy, as you can imagine. We've had a lot of news this last weekend. Kind of, it's how spring football goes. It's silence, and then bam, like all within like a couple weeks, there's just a ton of news all at once. We're used to this at this point, so yeah, I'm doing well. Excited to get into all these pretty cool topics we got going on right now.
I know. His lore is growing too. Tweeting his things out has blown him up on that phone. I don't know how I want to ask about that later on at some point, about how you deal with notifications. And of course, Luke, you tried to step over. I don't do counterclockwise on the intros, but maybe we'll do it next time. How are things going? I saw you have is it the Birmingham Bulls shirt that I thought I saw on the minor league setup? Yes,
that's right. Yeah. So got to rep the entire Birmingham sports scene. I thought about wearing the Scoobin Score shirt, but I was like, he might come on the show later, so I'll save it for that day. So I was like, I'll rock the Bulls tonight, and it's Bull season. So, but yeah, no, I'm feeling good. Excited to talk to all USFL tight end Jace Sternberger.
I know that is going to be an exciting conversation coming up in just a little while on the show, but we got a lot of convo on the schedule today. This is all things schedule, and there's a lot of stuff with the schedule release that we were also waiting for. We got TV to talk about, which is my favorite thing to talk about. I love looking at all the TV concepts, so I can't wait, but I'm going to pass off as we get in. I did mention this to Mel's, but I will defer this and we'll kind of jump around at all places. But opening the floor, thoughts on the schedule that you are seeing so far? First reactions. There's a few keyed up things that we're going to point in with this topic, but anyone got something off the bat that really you just went, whoa, I need to bring this up and pump it off my chest here onto the chat and get things going. Who's got something to tee up?
I'll start. You know, the one thing that stood out to me as I was looking at the schedule was, man, it's going to be fun to go 12-0 at the end of it. And we don't even know who the other two teams are, you know, at the end of this whole rodeo. But looking at the season, you know, I just feel bad for everybody that's going to come down to Rice Stadium. They're going to count it out. It's a new stadium. What's going to happen? But you guys don't know. The ref is going to be out there roughing them up, roughing you up, roughing your ears up. We're going to fill the rig. Hey, don't give me that look. But the other thing that really jumped out to me was the opportunity that was once again given to us last year. Spring Stocks 2, 2-day event. Spring Stock 3, 2-day event. So here's the big news. People have been asking, where is Spring Stock going to be? Well, you know Arlington, Texas. Well, the little trick you didn't know is it's also Houston, Texas. Spring Stock is heading to Texas in a big way. Everything's bigger and better in Texas, including Spring Stock. So day one, Arlington, Texas. Hold on to your seats. We're heading to Texas live right next to Choctaw Stadium.
Oh, yes.
We'll have more details on, you know, where you can find us, how you can check us out. But the big news is if you can't make it to Arlington, good news. We're also going to be live right here on YouTube. So make sure what you're doing right now, you're watching us live, YouTube, look below, click the subscribe button, click the bell. It builds morale. It also lets you know when we're going live. But then one day later, March 31st, in Houston with the Refla. Maybe we'll get some swingers on that baby because we're going to be throwing one hell of a tailgate. I said it so loud that I could even hear myself echo there, but that's how big it's going to be. You're going to hear us from states away, baby. So stay tuned for more details, but Spring Stock 3.
You're going to hear that.
It's going to be fun.
You're going to hear that plenty of times in the next coming weeks on here. You're going to see it on our podcast, and we're going to get as many people down there as we possibly can. It's going to be a great event. And as we already knew leading into this schedule, March 30th, the first game on the docket is, of course, going to be the Stallions heading to Arlington, Texas to take on the Arlington Renegades. Going to be a blast. What I did find interesting, given the hype for this game, and this is the way I'm going to lead this off, I thought this would be the primetime Saturday game. I'm actually surprised that this is the 1 p.m. afternoon game that they're doing here because there's so much hype on this. I was shocked, and I know Luke's going to bring this up, so I'm going to let him talk about it. Thank you for not making me lose my mind. But still shocks me that the leadoff hype game is going to be the afternoon slate. It usually is the primetime contest, and Luke, you have some insight on that, I already know, so take it away.
Yeah, first I have to say, Ducky, don't mock me. Second, I have to say, so overall, I'm pretty happy with the schedule. I mean, well, I think overall the schedule is really solid. There's a few things, again, we could kind of nitpick, and I think with the Stallions schedule specifically, I was really happy with. But the one thing that is still really frustrating to me is I was frustrated when they announced that the opening game between the Renegades and the Stallions, champ versus champ, was going to be in Arlington because, you know, just as a Stallions fan, we've had Spring Stock there the past 2 years. Like, they're back-to-back defending champs. Like, I feel like they earned the right to open the season at home. But, like, I get it, right? Like, everything's based in Arlington now. That's where operations are. That's where all the teams will be living. So it's like, okay, I kind of get it. It's going to be based there. But then when you look into it, it's like, wait, the Rangers are playing in in Arlington the exact same day at 6 p.m. It's the opening, I think, weekend. It's not the opening game, but it's like the opening weekend of MLB. The Rangers, who are defending MLB champs, and certainly I'm sure we'll have a lot of fans turning out for that. And of course, they don't want to go head to head with that. So that means you can't put the game in prime time. And logistically, I don't even know if that works because they share parking lots and all that kind of stuff. So now they're forced into moving that, marquee matchup game into a noon game, a noon kickoff Central Time, which I think is just really unfortunate. And I think that's like my one major quibble with the schedule is like just let the game have been played in Birmingham. You could have had it at night under the lights like they have with the kickoff for the last 2 USFL seasons. I think it would have been a great turnout. Honestly, this is the last thing I'll say about it because I could go for the whole show about this because it's just been under my skin all day. But, I have not – you got something to say, Ducky? Oh, okay. I have not been – having watched the XFL in 2020 and a little bit last year, this is just my personal opinion. Maybe I'll recant after I go there for the game, but I just have not been super impressed with the vibe at Choctaw. It's a converted baseball stadium. It's just a little odd, and the stadium has never really, I think, been packed out by Arlington fans. Whereas I think Protective, obviously, there's been some games like some middle of the day games last year where the Stallions fans could have showed up more for sure than they did. But on big time games like the playoff game, season openers, night games, like the Stallions fans have really packed out the lower bowl of Protective, and I think it's a beautiful stadium, and I think it's looked great on TV. So I think just for the television product, a night game in Birmingham would have looked a lot better, again, in that primetime slot, marquee matchup, than a noon kickoff in Choctaw Stadium is going to look. And again, maybe I'll eat my words, maybe I'll feel differently once I go there, but I don't get why they didn't just move it to Birmingham. I think for many different reasons it would have made a ton more sense, but here we are. We're gonna kick off at noon, so we're gonna have that 8 a.m. Texas Live tailgate. Spring,
dude, it's gonna be so live. 8 a.m. Get your coffee, get your eggs. Triple fisting it, maybe a beer on the side. But let me play devil's advocate.
The devil doesn't need an advocate.
Uh-oh.
Here's why I'm not gonna say that maybe Arlington is the best choice for the first game, but here's why it makes sense. Your hub is based out of Arlington. Sure, the teams are playing in their individual cities, but all of the teams are staying in Arlington. So right off the bat, it's one less thing that could go wrong. Your people are already there. Travel's one less worry. Then you add into the fact when you look at the rest of the weekend, they also have the 2 other Texas teams in the mix, which thank you USFL by the way,
hey, now.
for having that Houston game on Sunday, because I would have been real sad to miss it because we've already announced spring stock for Arlington. That's why I feel like it makes sense. Would I have loved to see the UFL kickoff in Birmingham, just like we saw the last 2 years, go back to back to back to Birmingham? Hell yeah. But you know what? Here's something you could take away. You get that win on the road at home. You know what? You'll be able to do a little bit more trash talking with that. So think about the positives there.
Yeah. I'll be in the parking lot as the Rangers fans are walking into their game, talking trash and letting them know that Birmingham is superior to the Rangers and that the Birmingham Barons could beat the MLB defending champs.
Oh, man.
Well, speaking of positives, some interesting news that I saw that was tweeted out today by our good friend Kurt Menefee is that him and Joel Klatt will be on the call for the opening game, which I think is super fitting. Those guys have been really big proponents of spring football the last couple of years. They've done so much amazing work with Fox and the USFL. So to see the 2 of them on the call for the opening UFL game, I think makes a lot of sense. I think it makes sense that we're seeing Fox have the opening game there. And I'm excited. Arlington, Birmingham, I think it's going to be a great matchup between the 2 champions. And I'm excited. I'm especially excited to have Joel Klatt there just because that man, he knows his football and he knows his spring football. Like his insights have just always been so valuable for these players and just really the USFL as a whole the last couple of years. So I'm excited for that.
3 years of that duo doing some sort of spring football action dating back to 2020. Pretty impressive stuff. And they've been really, I think, above and beyond with a lot of the broadcast crews that we do see come through here. And I think this is something, I'd love to lead in with this on the TV angle. Now, anyone, if you want to jump on any thoughts on the regular scheduling items, feel free to right now. But what I did find interesting from the TV side, a few notes I want to bring up after
thoughts.
Mel's, that is.
Really
so what
quick.
do you got for me?
Well, so two things. One is the draft weekend. I would kind of like to talk about that because I do think that was a missed opportunity. And maybe it was scheduling issues with Ford Field. I don't know if maybe Ford Field already had plans for the draft that weekend. But I was really hoping that they could have a Sunday game and really like piggyback off of, that hype, that football hype down in Detroit, because I don't think Detroit's ever had a draft. But then also I found it kind of interesting. The first three games for Michigan are at home. And I kind of thought that maybe they might want, because Ford Field's a dome, for anyone who doesn't know, most of our teams are based in the South. We have 3 Texas teams. We have Birmingham, which we found last year. One of the issues with Protective was you have a 4 p.m. game and it's really freaking hot, And then same with the Showboats. And I thought that maybe trying to stack more home games for Michigan during the second half of the season made sense, like weather-wise. But it seems like they kind of stacked it more at the beginning of the season. So I thought that was kind of an interesting development.
I was surprised by that myself. Because I think even privately off stream, I've even brought up that I wouldn't be surprised to see all the domes take the later games. But no, it's not really that way at all. When it comes to the draft, you would have to assume it had to have been a scheduling conflict, because
it is.
You would think somebody at the UFL was like begging and pleading, like, you mean you can't get that stuff off the field fast enough? Please let us have a game, but they should. And maybe this is something we'll do that I think maybe you brought up in the chat, Mel's, an away game watch party or something, because I think there should be some way to capitalize on that crowd.
Yeah, absolutely. And maybe we can do something, put something in the works to have like a PFN watch party for it. Oh, Tiny Panther's here. If you guys want to.
Tiny Panther's
always got time for Tiny Panther.
Hi, Tiny Panther.
Let's go.
Points
Tiny
leader.
Panther.
Yeah.
But no, I think that would be really fun because it's going to be Detroit's a pretty big football city already, but you're going to have, it'll be all football. You're going to have football fans. And I just think like the exposure to people who may not actually know about the UFL or may have like, oh, it's spring football. Like, maybe it's kind of second tier. They didn't really give it a shot. And then, having that opportunity, to kind of introduce more fans, new fans into it.
Yeah. I'll tell you what, if there was a way they could do it and have it where the game was there with the draft, I would frickin' love it. I can only imagine the logistics of officials at Ford Field in the city of Detroit juggling those two events, but I would have loved it all the same. Because especially given the fact that the draft is at Ford Field, according to their own website, it would have been wild. I would have loved it though. I think it would have been a great cross promotion for the NFL. Both leagues have talked about their promotions. It would have been a great cross to promote football in general. And hell, it just feels like that whole draft date surrounding, like, I think everything football. I don't mean to, me, I'm an arena guy. They're even you got the Arena Football League playing off the NFL draft, wink, wink, nudge, nudge at the end of that session on the 27th. So keep that in mind. So a lot of stuff going on. With that. But I do think it's fascinating because, the weather discussion about playing outdoors and indoors, the certain times of the year, like Luke, you'll relate to this. Birmingham fans, they want to play at night. They don't want to sit in the swelter game. Memphis fans, I saw a few Memphinians on Facebook groups that have said, "Oh man, I got a lot of day games, man. I don't know about that, but it's where you can fit in." TV, just got to give you that. This is something that we all play into. Scheduling gods, sometimes certain priorities play over the other in how they do it. It's just how it goes. Yeah. But I will say are a big discussion in the UFL.
Yeah. That was probably, for me personally, what I was most excited about, because last year, especially as you got into like June in the USFL schedule, and you get a noon kickoff or a 1 p.m. kickoff or a 3 p.m. kickoff, and it's like 120 or something on the turf or something absurd, and it's just miserable in the stadium because the way Protective is built, there's not just like a lot of shade. It's a tough ask, especially for, I don't know, like families with kids and stuff like that. And so the fact that the Stallions got 3 home night games this year, I know was people were really, really happy and excited looking forward to that, because that was probably one of the biggest complaints last year was we just really didn't get any night games after the opener. So I think, you got a lot of stuff to work around, but that is something that needs to be accounted for. And at least on the Stallions end of things, I was really glad that panned out for us.
Yeah. So let me, and maybe this is where you were going, Zach. So I hopefully not, so I don't steal your thunder.
No,
but
please jump in. You know, you and I both can jump in and do host back to forth. I have no big deal with you taking over this if you need something.
Yeah. I'm shocked nobody has brought up the few regional only games. I know Zach and I think maybe James and I, we had talked behind the scenes going up to this. We had heard rumors that there may be some regional only games. Our worry was, quite honestly, I was like, oh, geez, I hope it's not the whole schedule. It seems like it's limited to a couple. And I'll be honest, I haven't seen a lot of people mention that online. Maybe it's kind of hidden in the dust. And I think we'll probably see a lot of people the week of say, hey, wait a minute here. And realistically, you're only going to be able to watch one of the games depending on where you're at. They're playing at the same time. Thoughts on this? I mean, we see it in the NFL. So there is a comparable there, but to me,
I don't like it. But
I'm a little shocked.
No, I actually want to hear what your thoughts are, James. I could dive in to some of the thoughts, but I mean, it could be worse. I will say,
like you said, I'm very happy that it wasn't the whole schedule because there was a little bit of that, like, oh no, like if this actually is true, and that would be crazy. I think personally, I see why they're doing it. You know, I understand, especially from a scheduling standpoint, like there's a lot of stuff behind the scenes that we simply don't know about. Like there really could have been some spots, especially like looking at week 4, where we see those 2 games on Fox, where they're both at 7 p.m. Like there might have been some other things in the way where they had to have both those games at around the same time. So they were like, all right, let's just put them at the same time and we'll do it regionally. You know, truthfully, we don't really know what's all going behind the scenes with that. But personally, from my perspective, we've seen how these ratings have been the last couple of years, right? And they haven't really gotten anywhere close to what spring football was back in 2020 with the XFL, which is kind of, I guess, the benchmark for what we see as success. And who knows? Obviously, like you might not need 3 million viewers for every game. But at the same time, it also feels like the 500,000, the 600,000 that we were getting at some of these XFL and USFL games last year, it doesn't feel like that's enough. It just doesn't feel like that's going to be enough people watching to keep this thing sustainable, to keep it moving forward. If it was, would we have seen this merger? I don't think so. So obviously there's a ton of factors that play into that. But if you're going to go the regional route, I'm worried about what the numbers are going to look like for those games. Thankfully, it's only a couple. It could have been a lot worse. But I feel like you're in year 1. You want to get this as in front of as many eyeballs as possible. So I'm not a huge fan of it. But again, thankfully, it's only a couple games.
James, I think you're right. Can I just ask a clarifying question?
Yeah.
That you may or may not know the answer to. But my impression was, based on what I read with the press release, is that all of the games are going to be available on streaming, whether that's ESPN Plus or whether that's the Fox Sports app. So even if you didn't have the regional broadcast, you would still be able to stream the game during or at a later point. Is that am I correct about that?
Yes and no. And I would like to get some more clarity on that myself, because the thing is, a game on Fox, it's not going to be on ESPN Plus, I don't think.
Right.
And if you look at the Fox Sports app and how that operates, you know, just like with the NFL, I'm in Michigan, so if I had the Fox Sports app, I'd get a Detroit Lions game, you know? So the regional thing's likely going to carry over to the Fox Sports app as well, which is going to make it difficult for people to watch certain games.
I think we'll see them on demand after, but during the game, you might be stuck seeing whatever is on your local broadcast, which that is, I mean, that could be a pickle. Now, real quick, just because we got a super chat here from Bros Pros, with the regional games things, they might add a Sunday ticket option to watch all the games. Now, I wouldn't doubt if this is part of the push, maybe either their own Sunday ticket or realistically, because they are closely tied to Fox, they're closely tied to ESPN, get people to watch those games on ESPN Plus. Now, I don't know. I think that would be the beauty of it, is if we had a situation like last year where every game is on ESPN plus broadcast. I feel like that would that would fix this. The issue I think comes in with the Fox Sports is we might have to wait until that week to see what our options are.
Now that was what I was going to talk about. I'm glad you said something. So the ESPN Plus, and this is one thing that you do have to balance. Now keep in mind, you know, 2 different production companies. We saw this with the USFL, you know, relating back to last year's. We're going to relate. You ain't going to see NBC games on Tubi. which remember, Tubi is owned by Fox. Just for those that don't know, you can see the first 2 seasons of the USFL right now on Tubi that are all Fox productions. But if you look at the whole setup, it's funny. ABC and Disney and ESPN, that whole Disney conglomerate, you can get all those games on ESPN Plus. Fox, and this is the one part that I found the most fascinating about this TV deal, was that 21 of the 22 Fox-produced games are on broadcast television. They didn't want to lean into FS1 really hard. And I think that's twofold. First off, it bypasses any of the complaints about cable. Fox still, from anything I've experienced, and I like reading up on the industry, Fox still buys into cable television really hard. So they don't have really a pay for a plus version service on Fox Sports. So how do you circumvent that? Well, make all the games instantly available the day of on Fox, the television company that's available on basically anything, antennas, your cable box, you name it. It's easy to get. The only game on FS1, there's one game that's going to be pretty, I would think, harder to access, because I don't see FS1 having that game put for free access on the app unless they want to do that. Would be pretty cool. Fox has done that before with some events, but you never know. TV is interesting. And then I think also with, we talk about scheduling for events, I think that's why you see 2 weeks of regional games, because, well, maybe you can't put something on ABC or ESPN that week or ESPN2. You don't want to dive to FS1 as much because, well, FS1 cratered with USFL's ratings. So why not push people to Fox in general? Just make one wide-ranging ad and do the NFL ad promotion. Here's the UFL, check your local listings.
Well, speaking of scheduling and speaking of integrating things onto networks, our special guest has arrived. Jace Sternberger is here. So I think we're about to bring him on. And we have him, the all USFL tight end himself, Jace Sternberger is here. How you doing today, Jace?
I'm doing good. Appreciate you guys having me.
Yeah, thanks for having us. Thanks for joining us, I should say. And it's big news for you, man. I mean, it's been a wild several months. You played in the USFL. You were an all USFL tight end. You had an NFL stint with the Buffalo Bills. And now you're back in spring football, this time with the UFL, back in Birmingham. What's going on with your life right now, man? I'm assuming it's pretty busy.
Man, I'm just following you guys all on Twitter. You guys give me the news before anyone else does. So I've just been, like I said, training, getting ready for the upcoming season. And it was really interesting. And like from a fan's perspective, like I said, I feel like I was like everyone else, just kind of waiting to see what the updates were going to be. And I just feel like it's pretty unique to be a part of something like this where it has proven that it does produce opportunities, not only for, players, but coaches as well. And so, like I said, I've just been excited to see what was going to happen. And now that it's the schedule coming out, it's all finally coming together. So I'm excited.
Yeah, it's all coming together. I mean, you're back in Birmingham. You're going to be the defending champions here. Now you're going to have to be going up against a defending champion, really to kick things off here against Arlington. What are your emotions like going into this game and just getting yourself ready to face off against the XFL's champion?
I don't want to come into it like a nonchalant mindset, but it's one of those things where, and I feel like Coach Stoops in Arlington can attest to this. Week one, it can give you an idea of maybe how your season might go, but week 1 and week 10 are two different completely parts of your season, and so I don't want to put too much into it. Week 1, obviously you want to go out there and put your best foot forward, but at the end of the day, Arlington could win by 40, we could win by 40, but neither of us can make the playoffs come the end of the year. So I think it's all about, really setting the foundation of how you want the season to go. Building that chemistry is the most important thing, because I believe Arlington, I don't think they started off the best last year, but obviously they were the hottest team towards the end of the season, and they ended up accomplishing what they needed to do. And so I think that's going to be our message as a team is, really take everything one day at a time. And, we got to treat every week the same. Week 1, it's going to be an exciting matchup, but at the end of the day, it doesn't matter come postseason.
Right on. And, we got a big panel here for you, Jay, so I'm going to move it on over to your buddy, Luke. Luke, you got a couple questions here?
Yeah, Jay, it's good to talk with you, man. Good to have you on here. Kind of picking up on the Arlington thing. I guess kind of a two-part question. So one would be, I'm curious to get your thoughts on, one of the things that's going to be an adjustment is obviously last year, y'all were in Birmingham and that was home. and it's not going to be that way anymore. You're going to have to, fly out to Birmingham for quote unquote home games. You're going to be living in Texas. I mean, I know that's a little bit closer to actual home for you, but I'm just kind of curious to get your thoughts on the different setup. And I mean, you've got some teammates that have spent, 2 full seasons in Birmingham now, would have been a 3rd full season in Birmingham, and now they're kind of being uprooted to a new place. So just curious to hear kind of your thoughts on all that. And I guess along those lines, also curious to hear your thoughts on the opening game being in Arlington. We kind of had a debate earlier on the show on whether it should have been in Birmingham or whether Arlington's the right place to have it. So just curious kind of with the new sort of hub model and the opening game being a noon kickoff in Arlington, any thoughts on those things?
Yeah, so initially when I heard the rumors, I was kind of upset just because of just how much I did enjoy my time in Birmingham, and it was a cool area. It was nothing what I expected, and so I was going to miss that part of it. But I think the whole traveling thing, I think that's just kind of one of the things as players in this league, it's good to have a voice and it's good to speak out on things you're happy about and, unhappy about. But at the end of the day, we're very privileged to have this opportunity with a lot of guys, losing that opportunity this year and maybe having to go a different direction to the CFL or whatever it is. I think it's kind of, you got to, enjoy the process of it and just the beauty of it. Everyone's figuring things out and what is, the best financially, logistically, there's a lot of things that play into it. And so I think as players, that's kind of one thing where we need to step back, and it's like, okay, they're listening to us, but at the end of the day, this is a privilege to get to do this, and it is once in a lifetime opportunity to propel your career. And so I think you just kind of got to roll with some of these punches. Nothing's going to be perfect at the beginning. And it kind of goes back to me being in JUCO, us staying in the dorms, and like we called it Paradise Hall. It's all about what you make of it. And so I'm looking forward to all the traveling and getting to see different cities and just, experience other fan bases. And the second part of your question is, honestly, what was the second part of it?
I was just asking your thoughts on that opening game. The last 2 opening games for the USFL were in Birmingham. I thought maybe we'd get a night game in Birmingham, but they went with the early day game in Arlington with the Rangers having a night game.
I think that kind of, maybe, like I said, I could be wrong, but I think that kind of ties into the message of what the whole point of the merge was. I think the XFL did a great job marketing their brand, and they obviously did something right with the home fan bases. And so if that's what one of the purposes of us merging in the league was, then I'm all for it. Like, let's put it in Arlington. That's where you guys did it last year. And like I said, I always think it's fun being the underdog, and I think we definitely were. Considering the USFL's talent levels, nothing compared to the XFL, and so I feel like we have a lot to prove. And like I said, it's really not gonna. We really are the underdogs, going to be like that all year long.
Yeah, I hear you.
Luke, excuse me, not Luke, Chase. Question I have for you, which kind of bouncing off of some of the things that you said, the opportunities to play in this league, just the fact that you can keep playing. I feel like one of the privileges you specifically have had in Birmingham is to play with a guy like Skip Holtz as your head coach. I mean, he's arguably one of the top coaches in spring football. I mean, I feel like he's done an excellent job the last couple of years. I have a 2-part question here myself. Firstly, what has it been like working with him, playing with him the last year? And secondly, what are your thoughts on some of the analogies he uses, like turtle on top of a fence post or the duck floating on top of the water and all that good stuff?
Yeah, Skip's great. Definitely. I had no idea what to expect coming in. Like, me and Skip never crossed paths in college. Like, I was never recruited by any of his teams or anything. And, no offense to Jamar or any of those guys, but when I was playing, I would catch Louisiana Tech maybe on a late weekday game or something. But for the most part, I really wasn't too familiar with his history. And so I kind of had to do some research. But like I said, it's been a great experience getting to work with him every day. And just the lightness he brings in when he comes into the room, and he's always going to make you smile. And back more so to his analogies, when we're kind of in that football mode, and unless he's directing something straight towards me, it's kind of one in ear out the other, just because I'm focused on the next play and what I got to do on my job. And so the analogies kind of fly over my head. Like, I didn't realize some of the things he said until after the year, and they did like a little recap video. So but it's all love with Skip.
I love it. I think next question up. Mels, you had a question?
Yeah, Jace. So, I was thinking about it today, and I was looking back at the season that Birmingham and you guys had last year and how well that the Stallions did. And, you making the all USFL and winning the championship at the end of the season. And I just really wanted to know, like, what are your thoughts on like not having a NFL futures deal at the end of this year, and then looking at other players like Matt Hankins with the Chargers or Josh Peterson with the Jaguars, getting deals themselves. Like, what are your thoughts on that?
I think it's great. It's great not only for the players because there's so much that goes into getting that job opportunity at the NFL, or it's all about finding that right fit. And so anytime an NFL team is calling, I think you have to jump on that opportunity and just see what's out there, see what's going to happen. And I think as more people are starting to watch the tape, and from Brandon Aubrey to Turpin to, I mean, there were so many guys who I feel like who got practice squad opportunities this year, from Austin Watkins to guys like that. I think it really just shows how.
See him.
We may have to
I
wait
knew
for
my
that
question
reconnection.
was coming up.
Oh, he's back.
There we go.
There you go.
Oh, my connection. I'm sorry. I'm
No, you're
kind
good.
of in the nowheres of Oklahoma. So what was the last thing I cut off on?
You're
Good
just
question.
talking about opportunities for these players.
Yeah. So just opportunities for these players, and I really feel like another year. That's what I was most excited about coming back this year, because just how many times fans are just sports fans in general just turn on ESPN just because nothing else is on, and then you happen to see an XFL game on that. I watched more XFL games, the past 2 years than I probably did USFL, just because I'm always on ESPN. And I know when I got to the NFL with the Bills, a lot of those guys, honestly, they didn't know. They knew about the USFL from personal relationships, but everyone kind of knew more about the XFL because, like I said, it's so common just people to turn on ESPN and then, a game's on, well, let's just watch some football. And so I'm more excited. I think it's going to be a ton of more exposure for us USFL guys. If that answers your question, sorry.
No, of course it does. It's always a good feeling, following this league like we do, to see these guys get these opportunities in the NFL and kind of spread that awareness of what the XFL and USFL were and what now the UFL is. So, but I do have one more question. I forgot to say that I had two. But so, as everybody knows, I'm a huge Swiftie. So, favorite Taylor Swift song?
Well, I think you froze for that one. I don't know if it was on purpose or not.
I don't want to be judgmental or make an assumption, but I feel like it was something about a Taylor Swift.
Yeah,
Or am
what's
I
your favorite
completely
Taylor
wrong?
Swift song?
Oh my gosh. I genuinely haven't listened to country music in so long. I would think it has to be, but I can go throwback, back when my mom always had the CMT channel on, whatever. Probably is it Love Story? Is that the song? Is that the name of the song?
Yeah, that's a song.
Why don't you sing it for us?
I didn't know if it was Love Story or a love song, but I think I just remember that music video, and so many people have made jokes about the window scene where she's writing to herself, whatever. So that's gonna be my answer.
I think I'll have to make a UFL Taylor Swift playlist of everyone's Taylor Swift songs going forward.
We'll put that out at the end of the season, maybe.
Yes.
Yeah, we'll get the collection.
It'll be like the Top Gear rundown board from back in the day.
Yeah.
Taylor Swift choices.
Exactly. So, as I do with most guests, I'll apologize going into this. You've heard a bunch of good questions. Now it's my turn to come up and ask you a question. So, you have the cheerleaders on the field, but I want to know, what do you like more, the cheerleaders on the field or Luke, your cheerleader on Twitter? Because if you can guarantee, if somebody's talking about Stallions, there's Luke there. So I got to know, which one do you prefer?
You got to go with the consistency, because the cheerleaders, they got a lot of other responsibilities on what they're doing, this and that, and so I can always count on Luke. So we know going to the game that we're always going to have the one consistent person who's always going to be locked in. And for me, that's like it's ammunition always. Like I said, Luke might catch something that other team's doing that I didn't even notice, and I tend to be sarcastic sometimes here and there, and I like to be a little petty, and so he helps me kind of catch some things that maybe I forgot. And so definitely Luke.
That's what I like to hear. Keep it up, Luke. Sign you up.
Yeah. Skip hired me as the bulletin board guy.
Hey.
Oh man,
So-
that's great. Now, Jay said, I have a question here because this is the guy that didn't really get much recognition. I'm talking about a guy that goes by the name of Mac Jones, and you might be like, Mac Jones, talking about the quarterback from Alabama? No, absolutely not. Talking about the guy that was in the locker room with you, Mac Jones, tight end coach there in Birmingham. This is a guy I just want to give a shout out. I thought he did a great job this past season. Birmingham had one of the best tight end rooms in the league. Can you just speak on what he did and what was like working with him on the staff there?
Yeah, it was interesting for both of us because he had never worked with Skip before, and I've never played with Skip. And Coach Kirksey was essentially the tight ends and running backs coach, but he kind of went over more towards the running backs. And so me and Mac just kind of looked at each other in the film room one day, and I just kept asking him questions, trying to learn the offense. And so we kind of just became buddies. And it's funny because he's younger than me, which should show that I really don't care. I feel like at the end of the day, if you know ball, you know ball, and anybody can talk it all shapes and sizes. It doesn't matter. And from there, like I said, it was just kind of a wholeheartedly relationship. I got a brother the same age as him, and so like I said, it was weird at first whenever I'm asking him for coaching points. But yeah, no, he did a great job, and I feel like he kind of kept the other players around him, gravitated towards him just because it was kind of that he could help relay the message better than some of the other coaches sometimes, just being a little bit older than some of the current players on staff. And so, yeah, shout out Mac.
Absolutely. Shout out Mac Jones every day of the week. Luke, you had a question, I think?
Yeah, no, it's funny you talk about Mac because I remember the first time I came to a practice and I saw him and I was trying to figure out, like, who is this guy? Because he looked too young to be, like, a coach, but he, had the coach gear on. So I'm like, he's not a player, but I'm like, is this, like, Skip's son-in-law or something that Skip's, like, letting hang out at practice or something like that? But then I realized, like, oh, no, this is, like, the tight end coach. But related to coaches and players and all that kind of stuff, I'm curious your thoughts on, camp's going to be a little different this year because, obviously you've been in multiple NFL camps and, 90 guys, like there's a lot going on. Last year with the USFL, you only had 58 guys. And then this year you're going to have 75, which isn't like drastically more, but I mean, close to 20 more guys. I mean, in terms of, number of reps you can get and working guys in and all that kind of stuff, it's going to be a different dynamic, I'm sure. So I'm curious to hear kind of your thoughts on going into a new season and with kind of these expanded rosters, how you think that'll maybe affect just the dynamics of camp.
That's crazy you asked that. I called Coach Holtz this morning, and we were just kind of talking about the schedule and everything, and what we liked and some other stuff that he was telling me about. And that's what I asked him. I was like, how are we going to do this? 'Cause I always make fun of him for how we do things at practice. We do so many walkthroughs and so many where it's just like the first team, and I'm like, have you, like, this is the most players you've ever coached? Joking, like, I don't know how many he's ever coached. I'm just like, there's no way we're going to have time. Like, our practices are going to be 4.5 hours long because of, like, how we do things. It's like, this is going to be ridiculous, all jokingly. And so I'm interested to see how that's going to go as well. Like I said, I feel like it's going to be very competitive. I think the dispersal draft and free agency has been awesome for the league. But it's one of those things where every team is going to have to go through that battle. And so it's not like one team has an advantage compared to last year and no familiarity. And I think it's going to attest to, can, get the most out of 75 kids. And like I said, at the end of the day, we are men who are playing a kid's game of football. And so some of our attention spans might not be that long and might be more distracted. There's more guys on the sideline. There's more distractions. Like I said, I think it's going to be interesting to see how we learn and how it goes.
Right on, Jace. Well, hey, we really appreciate you coming on here. And as we wrap this segment up, I do have to ask one more question because I know the fans are going to come at me if I don't. There's been a little bit of drama on Twitter, just a little bit, between some of the players, with some of the stuff going on over the last several months. Do you have any comments, any interesting insight you can give us on just some of the stuff that's been going on over there in Twitterverse or Xverse, as we like to call it now?
He wants to know if you have anything to say to Mark Thompson.
No.
He froze.
We
broke his internet with that question.
So I really don't want no smoke with it. Okay, I'll wait till I come back so I can give a good answer.
Oh, you're good. You're back.
We're ready for you.
We're good.
Yep.
Yeah. No. I don't want any problems with any team. Like I said, backyard football last year for us, and we didn't do anything. We're not really that good, so I'm just praying that all the teams take it easy on us this year.
Fair enough, Jace.
As the self-appointed bulletin board guy, we only get bulletin board material here. We don't give it out.
Yeah, I mean, I do enough of that on the field. Like I said, I'm not everybody's favorite player, but I feel like it's one of those things. After football, we're all good. Like I said, I've made friends with some other guys that I never thought I'd be friends with, and so you never know. Like I said, if I somehow survive this season, maybe I can be friends with these guys.
Well, hey, speaking of smack talk, we do have somebody on the panel who does a little bit of smack talk themselves. He goes by the name Ducky.
I have one thing. Crazy enough, it is for Ducky. I was honestly, no, it's good. I think, like I said, so be nice. Like I said, me figuring out about the USFL this year. I learned about James, Luke, and all these passionate fans, and I was kind of butthurt. I actually was really butthurt that, no offense to DC or whoever you chose, but whenever you were campaigning, I thought that was the perfect time for us to merge two powerhouses to come together. And then you completely I don't know who's worse, but now it's like you and that dude from the Pittsburgh Maulers guy. You guys are toe and toe. And then Lex Sports. I'm not saying low. Lex Sports. Him. Y'all three are my.
Oh no.
Y'all are my.
He's on the hit list.
Ducky, I was really hurt, Ducky. I'm not gonna lie, I was really hurt. The fake photo that Luke put out, I was like, it really got me. It really got me.
No, that was real. I was actually wearing that.
That was a real photo. He actually had the Stallions stuff. He's got Stallions gear.
Okay, so it wasn't a fake blue balls. It was 100%.
He pranked us all.
Yes.
All right. Yeah, so I just had to get that out. When I saw you were on the panel, I was like, I gotta address that. I want him to know that I was really hurt.
Hopefully the rest.
What do you got to say to that?
What?
What do you got to say to that?
It's a call out. You got to answer the call
Hopefully
out.
the rest of the team is also heard about that because the defenders are taking it all.
Ducky, it's not too late.
Too late
to
for what?
repent of your sins.
Oh, okay.
As a kid, I always had one favorite team from the AFC and one from the NFC, and then when they played each other, I cheered for them. So we can make something work.
Are you trying to tell me that my USFL team's the Stallions?
It could be. I mean, unless you're with the Flippo guy.
I'm not a showboat guy.
Ooh. Sounds like the Stallions it is.
Sure.
Oh, come on now. I've been trying to get you to come over to the Roughnecks. I know this is not the time or the place, but
I don't know. I'm not a guy that can
You can't root for two teams. You cannot root for two teams.
Yeah, you can always have a secondary now. Hang on now. I'm pro with Jace here on this.
I'm an all-in one team type of guy. I can't
all in.
Jace needs to know that Ducky used to live in Alabama at one point.
Whoa! Let's not dox me here.
Oh damn!
And you had an Alabama sweatshirt on the last show. Like nobody saw it, but you wore an Alabama sweatshirt. So like, why don't you just come home and cheer for the Stallions?
It's all Jover now.
He's lying.
Oh boy!
No, but I feel like somebody has proof out there.
I respect it.
I'm gonna have to release the receipts. I can see.
All right, before
I'll
I
back you
get
up.
crazy, I think it's time to wrap up this segment. Jace, we really appreciate you coming on and joining us today. Thank you for all your insights, all the jokes, all the laughs, and we look forward to seeing you on the field sometime. And hey, we'll probably try to bring you back on sometime during the season. This will be fun.
Sounds great. You guys are awesome. Thank you.
Yes, sir. Have a great day, Jace. See you.
Take it easy.
That was fun.
Man,
They feel like they get better every week.
You know, last week I was like, we had Flip talking about twerking and Taylor Swift. What was going to top that? Did we top it? I mean, we had somebody call out Ducky live on air. Is that the first time that's ever happened? From a player, by the way. This isn't like some random troll who's upset at Ducky. This is an all USFL tight end who was like, Ducky, I was following you and I'm very butthurt.
I feel like we need to, when we vet guests on the show, we need to first ask them, like, are you going to call out Ducky? Are we going to shit talk Ducky? Oh, I'm sorry. Are we going to talk Ducky?
Oh, no.
Hold on.
There we go.
we could actually make that into like a show segment, like guest versus Ducky.
I like that.
Yes,
Ducky, I feel like you could like that.
I feel like it would be pointless because it'd just be me winning every weekend. Weekday.
I want to get Mark Thompson on here.
I'm not doing that.
I want to get Mark Thompson on here because I feel like if anyone's going to go toe to toe with Ducky, is my dog, Mark Thompson. I mean, we saw not just defensive player of the year, but he's the offensive player of the year. You know what I mean?
Dude, there was one thing that Mark said to me on Twitter. I forget what it was, but he said something about he's going to have somebody shaking. And I'm like, something about my uncle has Parkinson's and he's not even shaking. And Mark came back with something, and I'm just like, oh, all right. Well, he was not phased.
Oh, man.
Yeah.
That might have to be on the PFN, around the UFL After Dark episode.
Yeah.
I guess.
Plans are
with that
being
censor
arranged
button.
currently. We will
That's
keep you
daytime for
updated
me.
on the first episode premiere of that.
Just imagine if we had Mark Thompson on for every Gambler's win. We'd have him on every week this year. Man, that would be fun.
The
Maybe
ultimate
like
breakdown.
2 weeks.
We'll have to wait and
It's
see.
okay.
But Zach, I feel like you had a segment coming up about some of the signings we saw this last week.
Yes, we do have plenty of signings coming up. It's funny. Some of this stuff got lost a little bit with the scheduling today, but James, as you know, it's been a busy week still. Things still are progressing as normal. Got a van getting signed on too. That was a big one today that I think got under the radar.
Yeah, Josh Van signing to the Memphis Showboats. That's a guy that I really feel like has an opportunity to showcase himself here in the UFL, and that's what, in my opinion, these leagues are all about. Van's a guy, he had a good career at South Carolina. He played with the Carolina Panthers for a little bit during preseason training camp. He signed with them as an undrafted free agent. He had one catch for 21 yards in a preseason game, and that was it. And the thing is, for a lot of these guys, like Josh Van, he only had one catch. He only had 3 targets in all of preseason. That's not really enough reps to prove yourself, to try to get on a regular season roster or even a practice squad for that matter. So, the fact that he's able to sign with Memphis now, come into a really talented wide receiver room, hopefully has a chance to prove himself. But whatever happens is a chance for him to get some game film on tape, stuff that he can show to NFL teams and really prove that, hey, I can do this at the professional level, at a high level. So, it's a perfect example, in my opinion, of a young guy who needs a platform, and that's what the United Football League is doing for him.
Absolutely. I like that. I like that pickup too. We're getting other guys that are clearly, signing, either basically finishing off their letters of intent this week. I know one that a lot of, Battlehawks fans were at least happy that, and especially given the fact we've seen some retirements of sorts from some of these. Travis Feeney got a lot of news, I thought, in the Battlehawks communities for getting back on from his letter of intent. So it was good to see him sign back on. Doug Costin, Quentin Dormady this week are guys that were signed on that they finalized their items. We're getting a few that are brand new, but it's still, we're getting through the process. A few people are still getting their stuff figured out, still kind of figuring out their options, it's 2 months out, but these are going to have to get wrapped up the closer we get to camp.
Absolutely. And, another guy I want to point out really quick that I sent out a tweet about him the other day is Haggai. Hopefully I don't botch up his last name, but Haggai Chisholm Nubidosi. And he's an offensive lineman who, get this, grew up in Nigeria. He did not touch a football until he was 18 years old. He stumbled across YouTube highlights of the best NFL hits and was like, this is cool. I want to play football. So, we started training. He was going to the local parks with his friends and just trying to get them invested. Like, hey, I want to learn this sport. Help me learn this sport. And somehow, some way, he got connected with Uprise Academy, who got him connected with the NFL in London. He had a workout there. Things went well. He got involved in the NFL's IPP. And next thing you know, he's in Arizona. He's in Denver. And now he's in San Antonio with the Brahmas. So I think that's just a really neat signing. And it's another example of just the UFL being a platform for these guys. And I'm wishing them all the best in camp. I think it's a great story, something that hopefully the league highlights.
I very much am hoping so. We're still expecting at least plenty of media. I'm kind of curious where some of the storyline driven items will go, but it is great to see that is going in that direction, and we're getting guys from all over the place. Again, take the League of Opportunity items from PR. It's good. It's good to have people that are coming in and they're getting their first shot with this league, or even getting an avenue with this league. That's what Spring and Alternative Football are for. So it's fantastic stuff. A lot of great signings this week from that, and that's one of them that I'm very happy you highlighted, James. Thank you for bringing that one back up to the light. I know we're getting a little tight on time, but I do want to circle back around at least for one more question, at least topic that, because Ducky brought it up when we did our clockwise discussion, and he's adamant on this piece about the championship. So it is being reported right now, and I'm saying reported because we've had talks about this whole angle with the St. Louis championship. The UFL championship is being reportedly set to be played June 16th in St. Louis. Now, if you come from the USFL side, we are very used to a neutral championship game in Canton, Ohio. We have done that. Last year, the Brahma's own Alamo Dome was used for the XFLs. And Ducky, I'm just going to let you go in because you are very passionate about this. This is like, I am standing my ground. I am angry and frustrated. I am angry about this in a way. What's the beef, man? What's your take?
I feel like it's common sense to have it like on a neutral site. Like it's the most fair place to have it. Like it's the two best teams from each conference, and they should have a fair game on who's better, not on who's louder, not on who shows up more. It's all about talent at the end of the day. It's not about the biggest crowd or anything. And St. Louis is trying to say that they deserve to be in it because they have a big crowd. And it's like, no, you deserve to have a team because you have a big crowd. You don't deserve to host a championship because you have a big crowd. And I mean, if they make it, they make it. Then it really shouldn't be in St. Louis. But if they don't make it, then I guess you could consider it neutral. But
right. So the one thing I'll say it's twofold. I'll play both sides of the aisle here. One, I can see why the league did it because they want, a packed crowd for that championship game. But the one thing we don't know is if the Battlehawks aren't in the game, are the St. Louis fans going to show up for another team, right? Maybe it's not. We'll see. But on the flip side of it, I will say I do miss Tom Benson Hall of Fame Stadium being the championship location because, as I've stated before, it's the perfect host for a spring football game, let alone the championship. You got the perfect size. The field is crisp. It's a new facility, and it's centrally enough located to where, unless you live in Ohio like you, Ducky, it could be about a equal distance for a lot of people because centrally located in the country. But I understand why the UFL would pick St. Louis. But I am going to miss Tom Benson, especially because we had such a great spot for Spring Stock 2 last year. So now we got to figure out Spring Stock 3 in St. Louis. Get ready, guys. Summer Stock 3.
I had my folks message me that they've already bought a hotel for June 16th already in St. Louis. My dad, and this kills me, he follows me on I don't imagine him as a Twitter guy, but he's on Twitter and he follows everything we do on here. And he's like, already booked it. It didn't even last a day. He's already set up and ready to go.
Tell them to book security too, because they're probably going to get robbed.
Yeah, we're going to have to go back and cut that out. So, all right, I'll play devil's advocate here. So I actually am good with it being in St. Louis. Canton obviously has the history, but the reality is there's no team there. There's no team in Ohio. If you look at how the NFL or other leagues do it, it's very common to rotate it around different stadiums in the league. And yes, if St. Louis is in it, then it's not exactly a neutral site, but St. Louis isn't going to be in it because they're a poverty franchise. So we don't have to worry about that. So it's going to be a neutral site game. I do think St. Louis fans will still show up.
You're just rubbing salt in the wound right now. You brought that in there. They're dead, man. They're gone.
Whoop, might be. St. Louis fans, I think they've got they're wounded, right? Like they're very insecure about themselves as a fan base because the NFL left them. And so they have something to prove, they feel like. So I think they'll come out in numbers, even if their team isn't in it. And, St. Louis is just much closer. Realistically, the odds of teams being in the championship, right? You've got 3 teams in Texas. You got a team in Alabama. You got a team in Memphis. That's 5 teams right there. And then a team in St. Louis. So 6 teams that are St. Louis or in St. Louis or south of St. Louis, right? Canton's kind of close to Detroit, but if you're going from San Antonio to Canton, right? Or Birmingham instead of travel. Well, Birmingham.
You got to think DC's going to be in it, and none of the Texas teams are going to be in it, so it doesn't matter.
Well, no, we already know that the Houston Roughnecks are going 12-0, so we know who's going to win it.
Well, either way, they're all coming from Arlington. Michigan's going to get at least both those wins against Houston. It's already confirmed.
The point is that 6 out of 8 teams, so 75%, are in St. Louis or south of St. Louis. So having it consistently in Canton, I just know a lot of people from Birmingham that was actually in the championship. We can talk about who might be in it, but the team that was actually in it for 2 years in a row, had to travel up to Canton, which, like, again, it's an amazing trip, but like not everybody can just do that.
It's good to leave Alabama every once in a while.
No, I'm not necessarily disagreeing, but like people have jobs, people have
You can't
lives,
disagree.
people, like it's called inflation, right? Like people don't have the money always.
Their
to, like,
lives should be the spring football.
No, you're right, but like we got to be realistic here. St. Louis is an easier trip from Birmingham than Canton is, so I'm just saying. I understand the frustration for those who are really invested in Canton or live in Canton or around Canton.
You mean the birthplace of professional football? It's not just Canton.
That's true.
You know?
That's true. But I think you're going to have better attendance.
You know, all of your favorite players, like on the Stallions, they one day want to end up in Canton.
That's true.
Actually, I think I have a post where Jamar was like, Canton was the best. And
no, I'm not.
I think Marlon was on there. He said, yeah, that was a good place to play it.
I would not be upset. I would not be upset if it was in Canton, but I'm not upset that it's in St. Louis. And I think that you could make a good case that it should rotate around the different stadiums in different cities as opposed to just being in Ohio, which is far away from the majority of teams every year. And honestly, I'm sorry to say it, Ducky, but who wants to go to Ohio?
That's my line.
All of
I need these two on a hot
in
take
Ohio
session really quick for next episode. This has got to be the keep going.
I want to throw my 2 cents into the Canton debate. I want it to be in St. Louis because I just want to see Duffy mad about it. So I'm Team St. Louis.
That's fair. No! You got to be careful what you say.
You know, you threw her off just as someone on the chat said, "Is that Taylor Swift?"
Yeah, guys, we're really pulling out the PFN budget over here. You know, we're putting all of our finances into getting Taylor Swift on the show because that's what Coach DeFilippo asked us to do. So
that's true. And she got so into football with Travis Kelce that she's now become such a diehard. She's actually a huge UFL girl, and here she is talking ball.
Start singing. What can I say? Taylor's entered the group of crazies. She's a crazy like us.
I like it.
And she's anti-Ducky. She really does know ball.
Damn.
I don't know what's being better, though. A crazy or a junkie, a Discord junkie like me.
Oh, yeah.
Speaking of which, if you're a Discord junkie like all of us here, make sure you click the link below the video. Join the Discord. It's a magical place. There's players in there. There's coaches in there. We're in there. There's all sorts of things.
If you like the back and forth between Luke and Ducky, then you'll like the Discord. So.
Yeah, you'll love
the
it.
Discord.
And you'll never know what you're going to see in there. I won't mention specifics, but there's some things that you'll see.
Not football.
You'll get to see the Mona Lisa with a mustache.
Yeah, if you like talking football, that's might not be the place for you.
Oh, there's plenty of football talk. There's plenty of football
Discord.
talk.
Oh,
yeah.
crap.
We have Warball in there too.
Warball,
yeah.
Boy.
Oh, yeah.
Forgot about a good old Warball.
Mm-hmm.
Warball sounds like it'd be a pretty destroying type of sport, which I feel like could segue into a segment about a very specific person named Destroying. Or
Oh my gosh, we didn't talk about that at all.
No, we have not. Zach,
I mean, we
James.
can, but we're getting tight on time. So
can I just ask, like, James, how are you single with how smooth you are? Because man, like it's incredible. The segues are next level.
I plead the fifth on this one.
All right. Well, any ladies watching around the UFL?
Win a date with James. Maybe we'll do back to back. One at Springstock, one at Summerstock.
I mean, how do you know that I'm single though? I'm just saying.
We can tell.
What he said.
Link in the description for that contest.
Like,
on PFN Discord, by the way.
Did you have something you wanted to say about destroying James?
I haven't talked the whole first part.
I think you just destroyed my ego, buddy. So I think we're good.
All right, Ducky, you know about destroying them.
Seriously, let's try to be serious for just a second here. I'd love to get people's thoughts on this signing because it's kind of a big name. Obviously, we saw the way it just blew up on social media from all sorts of accounts, possibly including mine. And
just maybe yours, you know.
So if any girls are listening,
He's Twitter famous.
It blew up. It blew up. I'm just saying.
No,
Quote
I'm trying to
tweeted by
be serious
destroying.
here.
Give this man more Twitter
what do we
revenue.
think of this signing? Because he hasn't played football in forever. I know he's done really well at some different tryouts, some different workouts, but the last time he's been in an actual camp was with the CFL back in 2019. Obviously, he had the whole ordeal in college, which, in my opinion, based on the way things are now with NIL, definitely he got screwed over from that perspective. But what are your guys' thoughts on this? Because I guess what I'm trying to say is there's a lot of people out there that are like, this is a publicity stunt. So I'd be curious to get people's thoughts on that, and if you think he deserves a roster spot with only 8 teams.
Well, to talk more seriously, I think Donald De La Haye is going to have a hard time getting a roster spot. Look, I'm trying to keep it football. You guys know me. I look at the football. I'm less about the PR, some of the PR stuff like this, where it's like a YouTuber jumps in and he's jumping in. Now, he was a kicker at UCF, and I will say, with the way NIL changed, I agree. The way he got botched over for having a YouTube channel back in the day, it's rough, but he's made the most of it, and he's actually has a positive impact on the scene of football. Ja'Cour Pearson has to thank, I imagine, Destroying for getting him into the spotlight, and the NFL even highlighted that during that news, so it's good, is all. My thing is, how realistic is it that he's going to be on this roster? That's where I flip a little bit, and I'm more asking the question of, did this push it for that roster to have him? Now, they still need to pick who the punter is. They have 3 that are kickers as labels, and Destroying, or Donald De La Haye, as I will be trying to refer to him more often, has been doing punting duties at times when he has been on practice squads or been in Toronto. Does he have a shot? 2 out of 3 positions, unless they want to combine one, which teams have done that in the past. So I think he has an uphill battle personally. That I really put him as the number 3 on the battle in San Antonio, if we're being serious. But I don't know. He's got a shot. He's been in levels. You can't knock him out. I just think, use him as a PR piece and someone that can be a mouthpiece and a good function at the bare minimum, because he's in the league right now.
Well, right, and I thought your point. Sorry to cut you off. I think the point that you made too is like, he was signed as a kicker, not a punter. So maybe we could see him adopt that. But like, he's going up against Christopher Dunn and Matt Amendola, and he was signed as a kicker. He's been training as a kicker.
I'd be shocked if he passes Amendola anyway. That's the thing that drives me crazy. He's like, you're basically competing for the punting job to me.
Right, which again, like, it doesn't make a ton of sense because he's been training as a kicker with Nick Novak and with Gary Zauner. So we'll see. We'll see how it plays out. I think it's a great thing for the league, obviously, to get eyes on it. I just don't see a world where he makes the final roster. Maybe he'll prove me wrong, and if so, that's fantastic. Again, with Matt Amendola, Christopher Dunn, I don't know, man. It's gonna be tough.
Yeah, and I think, though, whether he makes the team or not makes the team, I think the point still stands is that by them putting out a release that he had signed, it had done big numbers. Well, you humbly alluded to, you got quote tweeted. That ended up on other different sports channels. The traffic on the newsroom site was blowing up. I know we were the number 1 article for that Destroying article on Google, and it was just, I think it's in the top 4 or 5 articles this year. Granted, we're only through January, but we're talking, a good chunk of change when it comes to views on that. And I would assume there's at least a handful of people that saw that news and said, hey, what's this UFL thing? Oh, it's the merger of the USFL and the XFL. So to that point, I'll look at it as a positive. Will he make a team? Will he not make a team? I'm not going to comment on that too much, but the positive of it is there's potentially new people that will either be attending games this spring or hopefully watching on TV. We'll see. Is it going to make a huge dent? Probably not. But everything helps.
I think what I would say, just to add quickly to what you all have said, I mean, I can't really comment on whether or not he should be on a roster because I haven't seen the guy kick. I haven't watched film on him. Like, obviously, he's not like a complete nobody because he was playing for UCF and spent time in the CFL. So it's not that he can't do it, but I'm a little skeptical that this was just about his talent. What I would say is I think it's a tough look for the league given the merger. If there were still 16 teams and you used a roster spot to bring this guy in, okay, that's one thing. But when you just merged and you cut half your teams and therefore basically cut half your players, And now you're kind of giving this guy that doesn't have a recent history of playing professional football an opportunity, but you just took away an opportunity from literally hundreds of players. I think that's a tough pill to swallow. And I saw a lot of players who aren't currently on rosters but were last year tweet about how, like, oh, I kind of see what it is now. And I understand their frustration. And obviously, somebody's going to get left out in the cold. Like, that's just how it works. But I think given the merger, for your average fan, they're not thinking about it. They don't care about that, I guess. But for someone like me or us who follows this stuff closely, it's just kind of like, dang, like you got a guy like, Jeff Badette or Paris Ford or, some of these guys that were really dominant spring players for the last year or 2 years that aren't on a roster right now, but you're going to give a spot to this guy who hasn't been playing professional football. It's just that I think that's hard to reconcile.
Ref, that sounds exactly like our combo about Chad Ochocinco.
Yep.
I think it's kind of wild because, like, 16 teams, absolutely. I would like, there probably are less qualms if you aren't considering the fact that the league has to consolidate to half right away. I will say, though, him being the league compared to Chad, I support more because the guy actually needs to get in if he's really serious about this and jump. Chad's already done his time. Dude should actually be a Hall of Famer by now, and I'm kind of shocked that that's not the conversation we're having. We're talking about him online trying to get back on a UFL roster when he's not actually in the Hall of Fame yet. So, that's my take. I actually think it's fascinating. But, hey, you know what? It's going to be fun in camp. If anything, just take the promotion where you can. If he makes the roster, I imagine, and I'm not saying UFL officials will be telling you this publicly, but I can only imagine some bigwigs at the top would be like, oh, yes, he made it. Yep. We get instant younger promotion. I know it. Like some of the tweets out there I've seen, this guy's like, he's going to make it. Right.
That 18 to 49 demo.
Can't forget.
Shout out to SM.
Well, hey, speaking of signings, I know we're running a little over time here, but hey, that's around the UFL. There's always stuff going on.
Around the UFL OT period. Here we go.
Yeah, there's a couple more signings that were just announced from UFL PR. So on top of the one we talked about earlier, we've got Chris Lacey, wide receiver from Oklahoma State. He signed with the Stallions. So, Luke, I'm sure you're happy about that. Wide receiver Desmond Patman signed with Michigan. And then the St. Louis Battlehawks picked up another running back in Jacob Sailors out of East Tennessee State.
Mm-hmm. I was sad Nick Holly got waived.
Yeah.
I know. That guy is one of the greatest stories of all time. For those who watched the XFL back in 2020, you're familiar. He played with the Houston Roughnecks. That guy, he tore his ACL like 3 times or something crazy like that. Still playing. He made some insane plays back in 2020. And then he was with a couple different teams this past season. I know he was in Houston. Then he moved over to San Antonio. And unfortunately, he's got waived. But I had the pleasure of meeting him at the USFL championship this past year because his brother, Nate Holly,
twin brother,
plays with the Stallions and won the championship last year. So Nick was at that game, and him and I actually took a picture of him and his brother for him. So little backstory there, but he is a really great guy, and I hope he lands on a roster because he's deserving of a spot.
Nate's a fantastic player too, but he's also unfortunately out of the league now as well. So it's tough to lose those two guys. Those are two guys that really would have loved to have seen be a part of this.
Yeah, I know. That's a shame. This is a shame.
Yeah.
The brutality of the business, man.
Yep, exactly. And we're going to see many more of these in the next month or so as training camp comes and goes. So that's going to be that one's going to be a hard one. It's going to be crazy to see some of the names that don't make the cut in this league. I mean, one that we were just talking about, we'll see the conclusion of the destroying story, or we'll see the beginning of it. So another week, another around the UFL. It feels like they just keep getting more fun and hopefully better and better for everybody out there. We tried to tinker with the audio there a little bit. And so hopefully it's a little bit better this week. And, next week, if it's not, we'll keep getting better. I think that's the fun of this. And then Spring Stock and then Motor City Meetup, which we haven't really talked about. We'll have more details on that. And then, of course, Summer Stock at the end of the year. Yeah.
One final thought.
And then we got points after that, too.
Points. Sign me up.
So while we were talking about destroying or destroying or whatever, I just want to say that I'm going to defer any thoughts to whatever Nosebuzz has to say, because he is the special teams guy. So if anyone here, anyone watching later, is into special teams or just wants to learn more about it, I strongly, strongly suggest that you check out Nosebuzz on Twitter. I think it's Between the Goalposts. I know he has a blog, Between the Goalposts. It is by far, no offense, James, but by far the best football writing that I read. And I don't care about special teams. No offense to any special teams.
Oh my gosh.
And when you follow him on Twitter, make sure to tag him that he should be writing all of his articles at PFN. Isn't that right, Ducky?
Yeah. Noah.
But it's
We'll get him one of these
seriously is
days.
great. So everyone should check him out. He does a phenomenal job. So
No,
He sucks
he's
at
great.
Fortnite though.
Oh man, I think that's a perfect segue to points. Here we go. Just like a game to us. We're figuring out what the prize is for points, but I will and ref, get ready to tally these down as I will get some here. Look, as I do, everyone gets minimum 1 point. You're on the show easily for that. Now, there we go. 1 point for everybody alone. Ducky this week, I'm going to go in clockwise order. I'm going to give him 3 points in particular. Actually, we'll do 4. Extra bonus point for Jay Sternberger call out, by the way, for you having to go through that. Also, the debate with Luke here on the championship.
And I
was
won
a
the
good
debate.
one.
So that's another point, right?
So
what's your Twitter poll?
that's what
say,
4 is
by the way?
for.
That's one way to look at it.
We'll leave it at that. 4 points goes to Ducky this week. The ref here gets to me. I'm going to give him 2 points this week for himself. Meanwhile, Mel's, you get 3 as well. Taylor Swift question, of course, being on the show, and of course bringing up the Detroit debate on the draft because it is a big deal, I think. 1 point goes to Tiny Panther for an appearance on the show, so we got to tap on that no matter what. James gets 3 points this week, easily keeping us on topic, bringing in Jace and especially the destroying conversation that we somehow almost missed. I'm actually surprised, but given today, we kind of go through things. And the other 4-pointer goes to Luke for the questions for Jace. And of course, if I got one-sided debate with this epic debate with Ducky, I got to give it to the other man who's standing there taking the blows in the ring. So there we go. And we'll give it a moment. Right. But the tally's going to be coming up. Tiny Panther still gets an extra point, so things are really lining up for him.
So Tiny Panther is back in tie for the lead with Coach Flip at 51 points. Now we have a 3-person tie for second with James, Ducky, and Luke.
Wait, we didn't give Jace any.
Oh, yeah.
He was driving. He was driving.
Okay,
that was crazy.
50 points for the driving.
No, that's 69 points.
69 points. So, all right. So Jace is in the lead with 69 points. Tied in second, Coach Flip and Tiny Panther. Tied in third, then what was that? James, Ducky, and Luke. Then we have, Mel's, you have 7. I have 5. Zach, how many points did you give yourself? 1 for hosting at least.
Just one.
Okay, so we're tied at 5.
Give him another one for being humble about it.
There we go. So, you're up. Then it's me. Then Jake at 4. Jake, you got to see. He volunteered to miss the show, but now he's.
He gets
he's keeping us honest. Look at him go.
Yeah, there you go. Okay, all right. So now, hey, you know what? Keeping me.
He gets a point for tuning in.
Yeah. You know what? At least I'm not so lonely at the bottom.
Chat moderator. That's what we'll give it for.
Yeah. So you heard it here, folks. We got points, and one of these days I'll get a picture of this graphic and we'll get that posted online because it's looking better by the day. We don't even need an official graphic now.
Is that the notepad from Summer Stock?
Hell yeah, it is. I hope everybody still has theirs. I
have mine.
Hold on. What is my first notes in here? Something is scrub. I don't know. I can't read the rest. But
anyway. All I remember from Summer Stock is something is scrub.
Folks, this notepad rant from Summer Stock is something of legends. It should have been recorded. I wish we had a recording of it.
How do you know it's not?
Oh, I hope it is.
Do you want to pull it out for us?
We need to leak that onto YouTube.
Maybe a future episode.
Yeah. Maybe as we get closer to Summer Stock next year or this year.
I'm so glad we waited for that.
I think we could go ahead and end the stream now, maybe. I think
that's a great time to,
Yeah,
Up the
I think
screen.
we're.
Wave
I need
goodbye,
to
everybody.
go throw up a little bit.
Smile and
I am
wave.
I am taking control back. We are going out, guys. For everyone here, I am Zach Kyleman. Thank you for tuning in for another episode of Around the UFL. Remember, we are live going in now every Monday, 6 p.m. Eastern, 3 p.m. Pacific on YouTube. You can catch these replays immediately after they are done here. But trust me, you're going to get the best experience if you join in live and continue with our discussions. Also, follow us along on your favorite social platform, Facebook, Insta, Twitter, or X, whatever you want to call it these days. I don't care. We're on Threads, for crying out loud, for Around the UFL. And stay tuned for more coverage from us and our upcoming episode of UFL podcast that me and the ref are going to be recording here very soon, because we got some other stuff we didn't talk on this show that we definitely need to talk about coming up at the end of this week. So stay tuned to all of your social channels for PFN coverage. And until next time, guys, catch you on Mondays. Can't wait to have you on once more, and keep things classy, people, or not. We have some fun. We do a little trolling. See you next time on
St. Louis
Monday.
sucks.